Is Kenya a failed state? Is it a fragile state? Is it a failing state? I watched President Ruto's comment responding to former Justice Maraga's statement that Kenya is a failed state. And he was giving his political and presidential position on the matter. And later, it left me thinking and asking, is Kenya a failed state or not? That remained with me since yesterday, and I've been reflecting and looking into the matter from my own perspective. So I want to share my thoughts regarding, is Kenya a failed state? They call the Fragile States Index. And usually they use several indicators to determine which state or nation is in which position. And Kenya has been placed number 33 of the most fragile states out of 179. So we are the top 20% nations that is fragile. And the indicators they use is they look at political cohesion, economic cohesion, political cohesion. They look at several indicators in order to determine which nation is most fragile. And I think South Sudan stands at position number 1 on high alert. And to give you context, South Africa is number 89 out of what you call the Fragile States Index. And Kenya being number 33 puts it on alert, maybe not high alert, but on alert, meaning that we are not doing very, very well. And this has implications in terms of investments, in terms of so many things, tourism, in terms of this and the other. So, but my question remains, what index should we use to determine whether Kenya is a failed state, is a fragile state, or is a failing state? Should we just use the Fragile States Index, FSI, or should we look at other indexes? For example, should we look at our constitutional index? And when I mention our constitutional index, there might not be one in terms of the 2010 constitution say this is the way you determine, but we can use the articles in the 2010 constitution to determine on whether we are doing well, succeeding, or failing in our assignment. The 2010 constitution, Article 1, puts the people of Kenya sovereign at the center. And the moment you see thousands and millions of young people on the streets asking the government to account, accusing the government regarding extrajudicial killings, telling the government that the taxes are very high and they are not reflected in service delivery, calling the government to order, the People Index then becomes very, very central to determining on whether Kenya is a fragile state, a failed state, or a failing state. And looking at the 2010 constitution, as I've said time and again, is that those in power are operating in the spirit of the old constitution, which was imperial in nature, but it was not inclusive. It did not have the spirit of the people at the center. And so part of the reason we are failing is because we have not implemented the 2010 constitution in its fullness. Because Article 46 talks about economic justice, Article 6, Article 1. And if the government was operating in the spirit of the 2010 constitution, putting the people central to its mandate, then how can it be a failing state? Would then be headed different direction, which is an upward direction. So the president mentioned the Nairobi Stock Exchange doing very well. That's good. However, we cannot just use the Nairobi Stock Exchange as a means of determining whether Kenya is a failed state or not. We must look at the FSI, which is the Fragile States Indicators, and whatever other indexes are used by World Bank, IMF, and whatever other organization. We must bear that in mind, but we must also look at what the people themselves, the common people, the youth of the country. You must remember Kenya is a very youthful country. Kenya's median age is 20 years. So when you see the young people in those big numbers we saw at Albert Ojwang's funeral, and they are sending the same message, political leaders, the political leaders to check whether their policies, whether their decisions are in line with the heartbeat of the people. So the people index is important. The 2010 index is important. The FSI is important. These should be the determinants on whether we are a failing state, a failed state, or a fragile state. And in the event we are fragile, it then demands that the leaders handle the people of Kenya with the sensitivity that it requires. We don't want to come to the place of number one like South Sudan or the other nations leading. We would rather move further and further from the Fragile States Index. So thank you very much. Please share your thoughts regarding how we can determine on whether Kenya is a failed state, fragile state, or failing state in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and God bless you. Simon Karaoke coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. Bye-bye.